hope for God's sake none of them did it. So that's why he went against Cal like that. Whether he had anything to do with it or not, he was guilty because of his color. Gosh darn it, gosh darn it. The two of you work on that field together as well as any two people I've ever seen in my life work together. And because of this, come on, Gil, I thought to myself, you're made of better stuff than that. You don't know my folks, Sully. So little you know about me. I know that, I thought. I know a heck of a lot about you, but I didn't know this side of you. I know a heck of a lot about you and about Old Fix, too. I've heard how he and his boys used to ride in the old days. I just didn't know you were like that. We could have stayed on this road to within a couple of miles of his folks' place, but as we were coming up to the junction that said St. Charles River, he told me to take that turn off. It was a good straight road for about 4 miles, with the sugarcane fields on either side. Much of the cane had been cut, and far across the field on the right side of the road was that dark line of trees, which was the beginning of the swamps. Gil was, or the bayou, the same word. Gil was looking across the fields towards the swamps. He looked in that direction until we made the turn that took us along the St. Charles River. The river was grayish blue. By the way, swamps is such an ugly word, but it's a beautiful ecosystem. You guys know what I'm talking about, like the trees and the water and stuff like that. There. He looked in the direction until we made the turn that took us along the St. Charles River. The river was grayish blue and very calm. On the other side of the river, probably 3/4 of a mile away, I could see how small the cars looked moving on the road. After going about a half a mile along the river, Gil nodded for me to pull off the highway. I didn't know before then that his reason for not heading directly to his folks' place was that he first wanted to go to Marshall. Just as we turned into Marshall quarters, I noticed a patrolman's car parked beside the road. The patrolman in his gray-blue uniform got out of the car and raised his hand for us to stop. So, I don't know if you remember this, but Mapes had stationed a patrolman at the head of the road into Marshall quarters to keep people from coming in for very obvious reasons. He recognized Gil immediately. Gil, he said. Hilly, Gil said. Hilly, look, this is another person. He can be on your list here of other. We could add him number 5. He's another policeman. He wasn't much older than we were. He had red hair and freckles. He didn't wear a cap or a tie. The 2 top buttons of his shirt were unfastened, and you could see the reddish hair just below his neck. He looked back at Gil. Mapes told me to keep out trouble, but I guess you're okay. Mapes still down there, Gil asked. Yes. Thanks, Gil said. Be pulling for you tomorrow night. Hilly said. As soon as he said it, you could see he felt he'd spoken badly. So why is Hilly letting Gil, the brother of the dead guy, into the quarters?
Because he's family related. Football star.
Football.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He's dazzled. He's like, and good luck to with the big game, Gil. You're my guy. Right? So, and you know, in real life, right, people who have star status don't they get away with things that other people don't, can't and stuff. So, and this is kind of what happens here. He should not have let him get it down, but he did. Thanks, Gil said, and we drove off. Marshall Quarters was a narrow little country road, and also all the other things you guys said too, because he knows it. All white with dust and weeds on both sides, the 1 or 2 old clapboard houses seemed deserted, causing the place to look like a western ghost town. All you needed was a couple of tumbleweeds to come bouncing down the road. Halfway into the quarters, I could make out a tractor and several cars. As we came closer, I recognized Lou Dimes' baby blue Porsche with a white streak on the side. Lou Dimes had been a starting forward on LSU's basketball team about 10 years ago, and he still came to most of the games. Sometimes he covered the games for the paper in Baton Rouge. Gil nodded for me to park in front of the tractor. We hadn't been there half a minute when I saw a skinny little guy coming out of the weeds with a pistol dangling from his right hand. He was looking suspiciously at us until he recognized Gil. Then you could see him smiling. He came over to the car to look inside at us. Didn't know it was you. Sorry what happened, Gil. He looked at me and nodded, and I nodded back. I thought he looked too pale to be a policeman. Who is he? Griffin, yeah. So now Griffin is the racist deputy.
Yeah.
He's the one who's like very, he uses the N-word. I mentioned, not everybody was here when I talked about this, but the N-word, the author is African American, so he gets to decide whether or not to use it in his text and what the reasons are. And it's obvious whenever characters use it that they're racist characters. And so Mapes doesn't use this word, but Griffin does. Okay, Gil and I got out of the car. Gil stopped to look at the tractor a moment, then we followed the deputy back towards the house. But Gil and I stopped again. There in the yard on the porch were all these old men with shotguns. Besides, there was the sheriff with a pump gun. Lou Dimes was with his woman, Candy. 3 or 4 black women sat either on the porch or on the steps. Some dirty-looking little children sat on the steps with the women. All right, so I want to say something about the point of view here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The least discreet to your recycling that's ever used for one to say hi to everybody. That's all right. So I told you that when we start seeing the movie, it wrecks this technique that the author has of getting us to know people on their own terms, from the inside out, by their thoughts, by their feelings, by the things that they say, by their memories, all that stuff. And it makes us see what they look like from the outside, and that can steer us in the wrong direction. That can activate our biases, and we can be like, oh my gosh, these people are poor. Oh my gosh, not everybody's clothes are clean. Oh my gosh, maybe their houses don't look very fancy, or whatever. Which hopefully we care enough about them that we don't see that stuff. Or we understand it's part of their lives, but we see them as more than that. But so if you were just reading the book and you weren't seeing the movie, this is where, we're already on page 117. This is where, for the first time, we see these people that presumably we've come to care about from the eyes of an outsider, possibly an unsympathetic outsider. He's like, jeez. There's nothing wrong with him. He's not a mean person, but he's just kind of like, look at this community. Look at how you might as well have a tumbleweed going through, and the houses are clapboard, and the kids look dirty, and blah, blah, blah. So I just think it's an interesting moment in the text where it's meant to, the purpose of it also is to get us to feel loyal again and a little bit defensive on behalf of the characters. Like, hey, don't judge our friends. So it's kind of clever. I don't know if that worked for you, but every last one of them was looking back at us. It was like looking into the Twilight Zone. Have you guys seen the Twilight Zone? I highly recommend the Twilight Zone. And now they're doing a remake of the Twilight Zone by Jordan Peele. Wonderful, brilliant, new comedian, and now a director and writer of. He did Get Out and some other wonderful things. I haven't seen the Us one, or is it Us? Have you seen it? Has anybody seen the new Jordan Peele horror movie? Okay, I haven't seen it. I think you'd be too much for me. Right. You'd be driving through this little out-of-the-way town, and suddenly you'd come upon a scene that you knew shouldn't be there. It was something like that. Something like looking at a Bruegel painting, one of those real weird Bruegels. Sheriff lowered his pump gun when he recognized Gil. The rest of them did the same. You could see all those old shotguns being lowered an inch or two towards the ground. Gil stepped across the grassy little ditch into the yard, and I was no more than a step behind him. The grass from his footsteps had not sprung back up before I was pressing it back down. So he's so scared, he's literally walking in the guy's footsteps. And I intended to keep it that way until we got out of there. Gil, Mapes spoke first. He was one of those great big guys, exactly what the people up north and in Hollywood thought a small town southern sheriff would look like. They don't cast, that's not who is cast as Mapes. Mapes is cast as like an older man, but the Mapes in the story is like super corpulent. Corpulent means huge, big and fat. Gil didn't answer him. I nodded to Dimes and Candy. Dimes spoke, but Candy didn't. She stood by the steps next to an old guy in a dirty t-shirt and green pants. An old guy in a dirty t-shirt and green pants. Who's he talking about? Brianna, are you awake? Wake her up. He's talking about Matthew, right? The hero. Hi, time to wake up. Okay. No, she seemed lost in her own thoughts. She seemed no more interested in Gil and me than she did in anything else around her, except for that old guy maybe. I had seen her at a few of the games at times, and she always seemed bored with everything she had to fight by now. She also looked very tired. Where's my brother, Mapes? I heard Gil asking. I mean, of course we're sympathetic to Gil. He's lost his brother. But at the same time, this is not what he should be. He took him to Bayonne, Mapes said. Gil was looking at Mapes. He didn't think Mapes had told him enough. He wanted to hear more without asking for it. He didn't think in a situation like this, it was necessary to ask. You're on your way home, Mapes asked Gil. He was trying to show sympathy, but that was hard to do with a face and eyes like his. Gil didn't answer this time either. He was doing everything he could to control himself. He wanted the sheriff to say more about it. I got Russell back there on the bayou. I told him to keep your daddy back there. I don't want him here at Marshall, Gil. I don't want him in Bayonne until I send for him. So add Russell to this list of others because he's another deputy. He's actually a good deputy. And the sheriff is keeping Griffin with him. But he sent this other guy, he trusts him, to fix this with the almost impossible job of keep them there. Keep Fix there and all of his gang. We'll see if the guy's up to it. The sheriff said all of this gently with as much sympathy as anybody could who looked like he did. His face was big, red, with heavy jowls. His eyes were the color of cement. I love that description. Even when he was trying to be gentle, his eyes still remained hard and staring at you. Gil stared back at him. He was waiting for the sheriff to tell him more about what had happened. I'll have it over with before sundown, Mapes said. You can take my word. What over with, Mapes? Gil asked. He was doing all he could to control himself. What over with, Mapes? Person who did it, I'll have him in jail before sundown. I guarantee you. Don't you know who did it? Gil asked. I think I do. I'm sure I do. Then why don't you arrest him? They all say the same thing. They all claim they did it. But you know who did it. Yes, Mapes said, I know who did it. But the others threatened to come to town if I take him in. She says the same thing. I don't want this crowd in Bayonne. Not the way people are working themselves up for that game tomorrow. If you just come from Baton Rouge, you know what I'm talking about. What do you plan to do, Mapes? I'll handle it my way. Your way? My brother's been dead how long? 4 hours? About 4 hours. Gil looked at him the way you look at somebody who should be telling you much, much more. But instead of saying more, Mapes turned away. Gil started looking at the old men around him. His eyes finally settled on the one in the dirty t-shirt and green trousers, the one nearest Candy. He did not say anything to the old man for a while. The old man was looking out over the road. You, Matthew? Yes. The old man answered without looking at Gil. Gil's right hand slowly tightened into a fist. Not that he wanted to hurt the old man. His face didn't show hatred or anger, just disbelief in the dry, direct way that the old man had answered him. If the old man had dropped his head and muttered out the words, that might have made a difference. But no. Dry and direct without even looking at Gil. Yes, I did it. Ask the others, Mapes said. Ask Candy. Gil was still looking at old Matthew. The old man was not trying to avoid Gil's stare. He was just looking thoughtfully away from him. Mapes held the pump gun in one hand and laid his big arm across Gil's shoulders. Go home, Gil. It was said as gently as someone with a face and eyes like his could say it, not necessarily as gently as it could be said in a situation like this. Gil was still looking at old Matthew. He showed no sign that he'd even heard Mapes. Gil, Mapes said, Gil. Gil looked at him. What is going on here, Mapes? He asked. Yes, he said it as if he'd just come into the yard and didn't know a thing. What's going on here? What is going on? Mapes asked himself. He looked around at the old men with the guns. Maybe he knew the answers, maybe he didn't. But if he did, he didn't know how to explain it to Gil, or maybe he didn't know how to put it so Gil could understand it. Go home, Gil, he said. Gil knocked Mapes' arms from his shoulders. Now he turned to Candy, who stood beside old Matthew. Up till now, she hadn't shown any interest in our even being there. What is going on here, Candy? Gil asked. She raised her head slowly to look at him. She looked tired, but she showed no sympathy for him at all. She told him how Bo, and this little story is important, so pay attention. She told him how Bo and somebody called Charlie had gotten into a fight in the fields. This Charlie fellow had run up to the front and Bo had come after him with a gun. She was here talking to old Matthew, she said. She told Bo not to come into the yard. She said she told him more than once not to come into the yard. He came in with the gun ready to shoot, and she stopped him. These other people heard about it and thought there would be trouble, and they'd all come here to stand along with her. She said she'd already told all of that to Mapes. You're lying, Candy, Gil said. Bo never would have come after Charlie with a gun. A stick, a stalk of cane, but never with a gun. Why are you saying all this? Why are you here in the first place? Why are all these old people here, Candy? To do what? She didn't answer him. She looked past him. She had made her point. She wasn't talking anymore. Gil turned to Lou Dimes, who stood beside Candy. What's going on here, Lou? I know I can trust you. What does he say? I know I can trust you. It could be. Yeah, he's another black guy like him. He shook his head. I don't know either, Gil, he said. Sure you do, Gil said. I thought Gil was about to cry. What's going on, Lou? Tell me what's going on. Gil, believe me, Lou said. I don't know any more than what you see before you right now. Please believe me. He looked at me, back to the narrator, the speaker. Why did you take him home? Come on, Gil, I said, and I took him by the arm, but that was like pulling on a tree. Gil turned back on Candy. You never did like Bo. You never liked any of us. Looking at us as if we're a breed below you, but we're not, Candy. We're all made of the same bone, the same blood, the same skin. Your folks had it brave, mine didn't, that's all. You know, there's an element of truth in the sense that there's some socioeconomic difference there between them two. She looked past him like he wasn't even there. She looked tired, but other than that, she showed no other expression. My God, Candy, if you only knew how sad, how pathetic you looked. She pretended not to even hear him, and maybe she didn't. Come on, Gil, I said, pulling on his arm again. Won't it ever stop, he said. He looked around at all of them. Won't it ever stop? I do all I can to stop it. Every day of my life, I do all I can to stop it. Won't it ever stop? People did not look at him. They were not looking down. They were just looking away. Come on, I told him. Come on, let's get out of here. He looked around at all of them, then he turned quickly and walked away, and I followed him out of the yard. Okay. So he was about to go to his dad's. Again, you know, we're holding our breath to see if these guys who've been bitten and lynched people and they're gonna come, they're gonna go and attack. We don't know it. You guys have to find out. We have totally switched gears. And I'm going to give you an assignment that you're going to be working on mostly tomorrow, but you're going to get started with today because I'm going to explain it to you. And I'm not here tomorrow, and it's a very important assignment that you can do easily, and you will do, but I want to get you started on it. You know, raise your hands if you've done something or remember doing something called the method. it's a close writing analysis, like where you circle all the things that are, words that are repeated, or strands, binaries. Does that sound a little familiar now?
Nope.
Yeah, okay, we try and do that every year with at least one text.